I got into Detroit 3 years ago, and I think that I fell in love with it pretty much immediately. I think I haven't really ever worked in a city that had as many different opportunities as I see in Detroit on a daily basis. And I've never worked in a place where there was such a community of people who wanted to make a place for it.
Mark Covington is Georgia Street. I'm Michael Covington, I'm Lorraine Covington, I'm Mrs. Scott, I'm Mrs. Boyd, I'm Mr. and Mrs. Cook, Mr. and Mrs. Lewis, Mr. and Mrs. Sims, Miss Jessie. And to me, these are people in the neighborhood that I feel like helped raise me. 2009, I'm Chris, I'm Destiny, I'm Ron Joy, I'm Artez, I'm Trayvon, I'm Mark Anthony, I'm Steven, I'm Kevin, I'm the neighborhood. So we have, it's about 30 kids that came through the garden, not just for events like the read night, the movie night and stuff, but actually working in the garden. As far as changing, I think they finally able to see where their food is coming from, because some kids didn't even know that potatoes came out of the ground. They could come down here at any time and pick a nasturtium as an edible flower and eat it, and it tastes peppery. I feel like I'm still a kid at heart. In a way, it's like living through them to a certain extent.
This canvas can hold a lot of really big ideas, and I often say that Detroit is the city of the future, because either it's going to rise like Phoenix from the ashes and be this wonderful, interesting place. We get to decide what kind of place that is, or every other city is going to wind up like we are, because they'll all be deindustrialized, they'll all be emptied out, they'll all be, sort of give up on their sort of civic government, and they'll all be abandoned. So we get to decide. The city doesn't have to rebuild itself as Houston, it doesn't have to rebuild itself as Atlanta, it doesn't have to even rebuild itself as Portland, which would be sort of a nice paradigm. But it's going to be something that's wholly unique to Detroit. There are dreamers dreaming in the city right now, and they're doing really interesting things with it.
I guess technically I dreamed up the collective. A lot of this is dreams, so it's dreams, but putting the dreams into action. So I consider myself a dreamer and a doer. When it popped in my head, I thought I was going to be the first one to do it. I didn't know anything about the urban farming, urban garden things, community gardens. I just figured it would be a nice spot to grow some food. So that it became community garden, neighborhood gathering place. There's
an opportunity here for, with all the abandoned space for gardening, with all the abandoned streets for bicycling. It could become, as like a Dutch utopian, alternative green capital, if it wanted to, if people wanted to make it that. The interesting thing about thinking positive thoughts about Detroit is how easily you find an audience. The idea of a place without hope actually having hope is something that people really want to hear. The catalyst for a lot of this, us being able to provide jobs to people from the neighborhood and beyond. Hopefully we get big enough to people from all over the city can have a job with us doing different things, even with trying to purchase houses and rehabbing houses, to a security detail, even a commercial strip on Harper between Gratiot and Van Dyke, trying to be a catalyst for that, getting other people to come in and start rebuilding. You can actually incubate businesses here. You could say, look, we'll give you office space, we'll give you business ideas, and you're like, I really want to start this business, but I don't want to leave my day job. I know what I'll do. I'll write up a business plan. I'll give it to 3 business students in Detroit, so 3 MBA graduates. They'll own 30% of it, I'll own 30% of it, and the state and the city owns 30% of it. They work it. If it succeeds, that's great. City provides the infrastructure, the MBA students sort of get the ideas that they want to run with, and the original incubator idea person gets a percentage of it as well. So there's, because this is such a city of opportunity and, in the best possible sense, anarchy, in the best possible definition of the word, you can do a myriad of things here that you couldn't do anywhere else. It's not the Motor City anymore, and it hasn't been the Motor City for a long time. So it's like, what are we going to do for the next 20 years? We might as well make another name for ourselves, reinvent the wheel,
in 50 years, Detroit will be a vibrant, urban center because in 50 years, you're going to have global climate change that's going to make the West Coast impossible. That's going to make, with drought. It's going to make the South impossible with heat and energy costs, and it's going to make the East impossible because of coastal flooding. So if you look at a map, actually Detroit is in the sweet spot for the geographic future of the United States of America. What I was thinking, I was watching the news today, I was watching the fires in LA, and you're saying, okay, well, they're saying 10,000 homes could be, burned to the ground. You figure if those 10,000 homes are, if they're all in Pasadena, then they're all multi-million-dollar homes. If the person takes their insurance policy, they buy a $500 house in downtown Detroit, they put $20,000 into investing to make it livable, and then they take the remaining, $1,790,000 or $70,000, and they put it into starting a business. It would take 500 people to have $1 billion infrastructure here.
You paradise under the rug, and your face is buried in your